Hello and welcome to Talking Dogs on a Monday. Of course, we are going to be talking Matchbook Betting Exchange Irish St. Ledger. We're getting to the really business end of things. The last 24 did battle at Limerick on Saturday night. We're now left with the final 12, and a very hot 12 they are. As always, I'm joined by the exiled dub, Tommy Lyons, from his Youghal base, his satellite base down there in the southeast, and Michael Maher, Greyhound correspondent with the Clare Echo. Michael, you're very welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you. I suppose for a man down that direction, between Limerick and Galway, this is probably one of the highlights of the year, the Ledger.
Oh yeah, definitely so. Yeah, it's I suppose it's the big one, which in Munster really, you know. So we're after the weekend, we're delighted that we have at least one dog anyway in the lineup. Fast Fit Paddy, trained there by Declan McDonough and Liscanner, up-and-coming trainer, has enjoyed fairly good success there now over the last couple of years. So we're definitely rooting for him.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Fast Fit Paddy, he was a dog that really did make a splash at the start of his career. I'm not saying that the wheels went off, but he just didn't quite come through as quickly as we expected, but he is running hard at the moment, and he's far from an also-ran. He's a dog that really is in the peak of his powers at present. We'll talk about him as we go through the heats. Tommy, a cracking quarterfinals the other evening. We thought, and we sort of suggested last week, we thought the two unraced or the two lightly raced greyhounds should be more prominent, should be probably higher up, perhaps leading the charge in terms of the betting. I think we were proved right. Both Part Blake and Russian Glory did their part to really, really ignite this Ledger.
Yeah, they did. Both of them did. And I think Part Blake probably stood out a bit. I know obviously it's on the clock, but it was just the manner of the performance. The fact that he did sectionals everywhere around the track was deeply impressive. So I think we actually, you know what, we got most of it right. Maybe the tricky heat we didn't. Ballymac Art, who I had been hoping to win the two previous rounds, I kind of gave up on her last week, thinking she mightn't clear Minor Droopy. She produced a fine run, to be fair, because she had two strong stayers coming in behind her, so she was quite impressive too. Like Graham Holland has a few in it, Liam Dowling has a few, Paul Hennessy has a few left. It's fairly hot, isn't it, for the last 12?
Yeah, the big names are all there, as you said. Yeah. And then there are those couple of outliers, like Declan McDonough. He's a fine trainer, and he's really gathering his feet, and here he is. He's bathing in waters that are, shark infested, shall we say, like taking on the very best. Balliard Taylor ran so well the other evening to qualify, all for the bets for the HDJ syndicate. Well, John Codd is the man that's probably at the end of the lead there. But apart from them, it's Hennessy, Holland, Dowling, Buckley. You know what I mean? It's the real names that are always to the fore. We'll start looking at the heats from Saturday night. Michael, the opening heat. There's not much more that really can be said for Dearjet Sydney. He just is the most perfectly consistent greyhound, a dog that he's going to give it his all every evening. But when he's on that fence, he is so hard to beat.
Yeah, definitely. Like he has the fastest time now, and he's obviously the one to beat. But I think Fast Fit Paddy is improving. And I think he's there with a real shout. I'd be very disappointed if he's not in the final. So I think he will.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get to the semi-finals in a little while. Fast Fit Paddy he was only a length and a half behind Dearjet Sydney, Tommy, which is a real testament to him. Dearjet Sydney had the lovely, glorious run up the fence, a solo trial effectively, and the outside runners, Gunboat Showman, all for the best, went up well. In the middle, Jacob Tashlek and Sing Along Sally just squeezed each other out. Their race was over from the early stages, but once turning second, Fast Fit Paddy really put it up to Dearjet Sydney. To finish only a length and a half behind them from the run that Dearjet Sydney got is testament of how well Fast Fit Paddy is running.
Yeah, I agree. I think Dearjet Sydney, even though that was his quickest time, quicker than the two previous rounds, I don't think it was explosive. He went to the bend with Gunboat Showman and all for the best. There were effectively three across the track at the bend. He went in almost level with them, came out 2 lengths clear of Fast Fit Paddy, who tracked well as well to move into second place. The two dogs on the outside didn't take the bend brilliantly. They didn't get any bumping, didn't get any trouble, but they just didn't excel around the outside. So it left Dearjet Sydney a couple of lengths clear. And Fast Fit Paddy ran a cracking race, but Dearjet Sydney was on the bunny and he wasn't going to be caught. It's still he'll still need to sharpen up, if you ask me. He'll still need to sharpen up. There was nothing wrong with the performance. He's a dog I do like, and I would like to see. He's already got a big classic in his or on his CV. So I mean, he doesn't need anything more. But obviously, with the All connection or the Cork connection here, I would like to see him maybe go on and win a leisure. But I just don't see it happen. That's the problem. And I feel like I've been negative about this dog, who is a top class tracker and has been for a couple of years. I just thought it wasn't as explosive as I would like to have been, and the fact that he's drawn nicely off the fence in the semi-finals, which we'll get to after a while, just makes me think that he might be in a bit of trouble.
Michael, you only have to be razor sharp on the one night, the night of the final. Isn't that all that matters? It's all sort of irrespective up to that point. It's all a case of shadow boxing. Dirjet Sydney is still there. Fast Fit Paddy is still there. And more importantly, out the back, the battle for third spot went for the best. That third qualifying spot could be crucial for him. 3 fast greyhounds going through to the semi-finals of the Leger. It set it up lovely for the remainder of the heats.
They're lifted in they're all household names, and I suppose from our perspective here, it's super that we have a small train coming along. But look at most of the dogs that are in it now. Every one of them has a chance of winning it out.
Yeah, I certainly do. Michael, you're breaking up a little bit there, but we got the gist of that. We're looking now onto the second heat of the competition, and here. Part Blake really did grab things by the scruff of the neck. Tommy, he was a dog that had been so impressive in the opening 2 rounds, but this was something special. He was the fastest into the opening corner of the competition, fastest to the third bend in the competition, fastest to the winning line of the competition, and his split from the third bend home was fastest of the 4 heat winners on Saturday night. It was basically the near perfect display. Are we watching the rise of a potential superstar, or almost that we can nearly just declare him as a superstar? He looks pretty special.
I hope so, because when I saw the 8-1 last week, I backed it, and then didn't realise until halfway through the week that another firm was going 10-1, so I had to back it again. I'd have felt a little bit hard done by if I had stuck with just the 8, so I had to take the 10s again. And there is actually still one dog. We'll get to it later on. There's still one dog in the price. The only firm that's priced up so far, Powers. There is a dog that is around price, I think, for the semi-final stage. But anyway, Part Blake was brilliant. The fella who I asked to back it for me came back to me after the heats on Saturday night, and he said, "Did he leave his ledger behind?" I said, "He's only had 9 or 10 runs. Like he's a dog that's actually improving. There's nothing to say that that's the ceiling of his ability. Like I don't think it is, to be quite honest about it. That run had been coming. We saw it. We saw the preview in the first round. He got a proper test in the second round where he came up against Explosive Boy again, and a really, really strong second round heat, and can emerge with a clear-cut winner. And then Saturday night, to be honest about it, he looked. I think I said last week when we spoke about this heat, I thought he was a penalty kick, and that's what he was. He was just different grade. It actually worked out exactly as we expected. Boy Sports Bingo broke very well. As I phrased it, and I was thinking about this phrase this morning because I knew I'd use it. As I said, he doesn't get to the bend, and what I mean is he breaks really quickly, but doesn't carry that momentum all the way to the turn. So dogs can get by him. And I think it's funny because the semi-final he's the same. Boyd Sports Bingo is directly inside Part Blake, which is actually going to be a bit of a help to him again, I think, to Part Blake. So this performance wasn't a big surprise, and if he goes quicker, I won't be surprised. If he goes quicker next week, even, I won't be surprised.
Yeah, if he does go any quicker, Michael, he's going to be joining a very elite group as basically a track record holder, because he's only 3 spots off the track record in all your time watching racing at Limerick. This was as close to perfection I'd say you could nearly see.
Yeah, well, definitely he's the talking dog that's in it at the minute. There's no question about that. And as Tommy said there, Boyd Sports Bingo, I was very impressed with the run he put in. I think he will be there with a shout as well after the next round.
Yeah, Part Blake, he's a son of Law Hill Blake. By all accounts, he looked a ringer for his sire the other evening. He just hit the lids, shows great early speed. He's powerful down the back, and he stays as strongly. He's one of that select group that have a bit of everything.
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry, Michael, you are breaking up there. It's just tough to come back to you too often. Boyle Sports Bingo was second, beaten 4 lengths. Tommy, he's a September 17. He's doing it for the old lads. It was just again a perfectly consistent and fine display by Boyle Sports Bingo. He's always been a talented greyhound. Of course, he was a juvenile Derby runner-up in his youth, and here we are, a couple of years later, and he's still performing against the very, very best. Like this heat was hot. Scooby Princess, Ballymac Merlin, Gord Kelly Nester, and of course Lower Ron, who was so impressed in the opening round. For him to finish second, you have to doff your cap to Paul Hennessy. He just has this fellow singing a wonderful tune at present.
He's in superb form. He really is. It's a bit like I know. I feel like I was down on Dear Sydney. I didn't mean to be that. He's running really, really well. I'm just thinking about the outright. Like I can't see Boyle Sports Bingo winning it without some sort of bit of trouble in the final or whatever. But I do think, like Michael, I think he's going to qualify for the final. Because even though he doesn't have the pace into the bend, even those first 25 yards are important. They mean he's not going to be tailed off or going to have to pass everything. Like he can actually hold himself in a decent position, and he stays well. There's nothing explosive about his performances, but they're really, really good at the moment. And I don't see any reason why he won't be in the final, to be quite honest.
Yeah, back in third, Ballymac Merlin. He was third off the opening corner, got slightly hampered, found himself back and forth off the second bend, but we know what he's about. He's massive pace down the back straight, got back into third spot, and that's where he stuck to qualify, knocking out Gord Kelly Nester. And behind them, Lower Ron balked at the opening corner. Scooby Princess, I heard this morning, she's in season, and I think that's the end of the road for one of the truly great performers over the last couple of years. Michael, anything to add there? The second runner, Boyle Sports Bingo, you've mentioned. Ballymac Merlin, he's there for Liam Dowling. He's going to need to find his trapping boots, but he's still very capable of a big run.
Yeah, well, you need that little bit of luck now from here on in, and as I said, most of the dogs are in and now. There was a real chance, and a bit of panic, you have to break, and we'll see how it goes after that.
Okay, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll move on to the third heat. Well, as we look ahead to the third quarterfinal, you'll notice that Michael, I'm afraid, had to drop out of the call. Just the Wi-Fi, the gremlins were in the system down in his part of the world. Unfortunately, until the broadband plan is rolled out, we are going to have problems like this. Tommy, is any wonder you down in your Yall base are able to stay with us crisp and clean?
I have Noel on the roof with a signal, with a little satellite dish.
Before we go on to the third heat, we didn't quite mention the dogs that went out enough there, Tommy. Just that opening heat, Jacob Tashadlek, just didn't happen for him on the night. Got squeezed early by Sing Along Sally. She's too far off the fence from four, as simple as that. And Gumboat Showman, who had run so well in the early rounds, just was the end of the road for him. All for the best, and himself had a good old tussle on the outside, and all for the best got the better of it.
Yeah, we had kind of said that last week that we felt that maybe Jacob Tashadlek wasn't right at the very top of his game. And with the quality of the ledger, you can't afford to be a little bit below it. I think that's just what it was. Gunboat Showman, I was a small bit disappointed with because I had held him in such high regard. He was perfectly close at the bend, and I thought maybe should have qualified. Maybe lost the pitch a little bit easier than I would have liked. Sing Along Sally, I wouldn't like to say she's a one-trick pony, but she's definitely significantly better from the inside. And whereas in the Juvenile Classic, when she popped out of trap 4 to win it, she's just not breaking as well from the centre she's up against the top dogs in the country. These are the very, very top echelon of greyhounds. You get away with nothing. So, I mean, there were 3 good dogs, and it'll tell you the quality of the ledger from the 3 good dogs that go out, and we still have 12 really good dogs in the semi-finals. So
yeah.
11 dogs.
She is a Derby, said before, Derby runner-up on the same.
And a Juvenile Classic winner. No, but
yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. It's funny enough, since she came back from season, we haven't seen the ping yet. She hasn't done the ping, which was a highlight of her early career, I suppose. The second heat, we mentioned Scooby Princess. Sadly, we won't see her racing again, but no doubt, given her unbelievable attitude and brilliance, and given the fact that she's very, very well bred, I'm sure we'll be speaking more of her in the future in her new career as a brood.
And yeah, it's probably a good time too, because Jennifer Donald, in fairness, has a couple of really nice pups coming through as well. So more
importantly, they are for Steve Noble, who's just a wonderful supporter of Jennifer. He's a man that doesn't get an awful lot of plaudits, but he's been involved in dogs a long, long time. And in Scooby Duchess and Scooby Prince, they have a couple of very able replacements.
And it just makes the transition that bit nicer. But when you lose a dog or from your racing roster of that caliber, a bitch of that caliber, it can leave a void. But in fairness, now it's probably a nice smooth transition. So best of luck to Scooby Princess in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Loher Ron went out. He got balked on the opening corner. Big, massive dog. Plenty of ability. I don't think we've heard the last of Loher Ron. We'll see him in top competitions again in the future. He's only a January 19. And Gord Kelly Nestor on the outside just couldn't quite get around Ballymacmurlin. Ballymacmurlin always had that inside line on him. And once you're sort of in a battle for back straight pace with Ballymacmurlin, most dogs are going to lose out.
yeah, I think that's a very fair statement. Ballymacmurlin is coming back to his best form. And Gord Kelly Nestor, we did have a bit of a concern. I think we've voiced it over the last couple of weeks that just the outside draw might just, at some stage along the way, it was going to catch him out, and it did.
Yeah, on to Heath 3. You spoke of Ballymacart. This lady, all about early speed, got to the front. This was what you were expecting her to do the first two nights. I think she's more of a middle wide seed now than she ever was in her early career. She just seems to be much happier out there now. Even off the last bench, she drifted wide. It was probably the winning of the race for her. It was a race where we were really struggling to get a hold of it. Sheriff, we knew would go up reasonably well up the inside. I thought Minor Droopy would go up a bit better. Price's Jet actually showed good early speed to turn second. Looked like the leader was a sitting duck, but I put it to you, Tommy, he was actually nearly too close to her off that last bend. If he'd been a half length further back, he'd have probably switched inside, as we've seen from him so often before. But as it was, he was forced wide. She carries him wide. They're in the same racing line, and that allows her hold on by that half length. At the same time, she ran hard in front.
Yeah, she did. I wouldn't take much away from her, to be fair, because she has improved through the 3 heats, and I thought that she did. After the first round, she might have needed the run. She didn't show what I expected in the second night, but she showed it the other night. Priceless Jet, I think, is a frustrating dog in the sense that he's one of those dogs with all this ability, but like you can see why he's seeded the way he is. But then he's not the most natural of wide seeds. He does like to go inside and switch inside and do things like that. But there's nothing you can do about it. He's just that type of dog. You'll never change it in him. You're right. If he was a little bit further back, he might have done what he likes to do and got and switch inside and maybe have won the heat. Sweep the yard, missed it completely. Showed massive pace.
Completely. Yeah, and showed plenty of pace at the third bend. You were thinking even if Ballymacart and Price of Jet had clashed, there was a chance he may have even snuck up the inside and won. But as it was, they didn't.
But in a matter of strides, he was clearer going into the escape. Like that's just the way he was hammering home, and he's not going to win as many races as he loses. That's just his nature. But he has got immense ability, and he's the type of dog you could probably see him finding a way. Maybe I don't think he's an obvious qualifier, but finding a way maybe to qualify from Saturday night heats.
Just take a second to look at his record. All the same, 77 races now, and 60 times he's finished in the frame. Like, that's unbelievable. 29 times second. That says a lot as well. But he has those 14 wins, and now he is 17 thirds. Just remarkable greyhound. Not too many Kennel Bills there, Tommy.
Yeah, I could do with a dog like that, all right.
Wouldn't we all? In behind, Sheriff, Bling Bling Paul and Minor Droopy. Sheriff was second early, but found himself vulnerable off the second bend. Obviously, Price's Jet took him on the outside at the first bend. Once he's third, he was always going to be vulnerable to one of the finishers. Sweep the yard, just took him into the third bend. That was enough for him. Minor Droopy and Bling Bling Paul, they needed to do everything right. They needed to start. They didn't. And as a result, they got squeezed out in the opening corner and their race was done. And Minor Droopy ran well in the early rounds. Bling Bling Paul so too. He had run very well in the opening round, winning at 29.94. But we'll see them again, but not in this year's ledger. On to the final heat, Tommy. And this was the chance of Russian Glory, a dog who was having just his 7th career start. He's up against Ballymac Wild and Glengar Bale, 2 trackers proven at the very, very top of the game. And Russian Glory just did it very well, broke smartly, held a narrow lead into the bend, seemed to drive the bend just at that 10 yards into the opening corner, just seemed to get that length. Then drove it, finds himself a length or 2 in front. Ballymac Wild runs hard in second spot. That's what you'd expect from him. Glengar Bale was third, bit scratchy around the bottom 2 bends, and surprisingly, very surprisingly, caught in the closing yards. I actually didn't notice until I was doing a little roundup of this morning. I actually had him written down as third. I think I'd just taken my eyes off the battle for third spot. As it was, he didn't grab third. He beaten by a short head by Balliard Taylor, who continues to run on really strongly. But this was all about Rushing Glory, I suppose, Tommy. 5:31 to the opening bend, 2:81, 5:31, 17:20, and he came home in 12:24, which was just 2 spots slower than Part Blake. In turn, Deirdre Sydney 12:28 and Ballymacart 12:30. But Rushing Glory, Tommy, he's a dog having just his 7th career start. He's just gone 2 years of age, son of Dropout Sydney. Just so much to like about him.
We read this the exact same way because I wrote in my report in Examiner this morning that it was the 20 yards into the bend which made the difference. He went from being maybe half a length up to getting a clear length on Ballymac-Wild, and that was the difference between winning and losing, because he could have got a shift. You know, if you got a little bit of a bump, who knows what might have happened in the race. So, like, it's a great sign of a dog that it will drive into that bend where where there's competition on both sides of the dog.
And 2 dogs like of equal size, both 81, 82 pounds, both are driven, really determined greyhounds.
Both proven at the very top level as well. So it's not like he was, you could have looked at some of the heats and said, maybe some of the dogs that got knocked out because this is probably their level quarterfinal of a classic, which is a pretty high level. Now, let's not be, short about it. But these were 2 dogs proven at the very, very top level. So he was, for an inexperienced dog, he could have gone anyway. He could have maybe eased up a little bit, got trouble. He might have just ran his bend, but he showed something a bit extra. And that might be what helps him if he's going to win a Leger. That might be what helps him. That little bit of determination that you get to get around that bend in front. Who knows if himself and Park Blake both qualify for the final? If they both get there and then they're going to the bend together, maybe he'll have that little bit of acceleration. Maybe that little bit of determination that might be the difference. We haven't seen enough of him yet to know what his ceiling is. The same as Park Blake, but 2 exceptionally talented dogs. So I like the performance. I really did. I thought the clock would be a little bit quicker, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out, you actually said this to me off air. Last year's Leger, the fastest time in last year's Leger was 29:40. The fastest time the previous year's Leger, granted, there was a clock done 29:21, but outside of that, 29:41 from Wolf. You know what I mean? Like proper greyhounds. It's not a track where there's 29:20 done all too often. Do you know what I mean? Like there's just. There's only a handful of dogs that have gone under 29. There's only 4 dogs that have gone under 29:30. They're JT Taylor, Part Blake, Price's Brandy, and Droopy's Nidge. And there's one thing that those 3 dogs, apart from Part Blake, that we know what Part Blake is now, but those 3 greyhounds, JT Taylor, Price's Brandy, and Droopy's Nidge, they were real powerful, strong 550, 575, 600-yard greyhounds. And that really is what they were, dogs that could go to a corner but really race to the winning line. And I think that's an indication of what you need around Limerick. And the fact that Rushing Glory is doing 29:44, I'm pretty happy now with my lot if I would be on them.
Yeah, but no, I don't. I never like to compare tracks with previous years because they are getting faster. I said it on record during the derby. I would say that I think we're not that far away from where breaking 28 seconds is just commonplace. It'll be nearly every week. That's only about a year away, I'd say, the way the tracks are improving at the moment, speed wise. So yeah, look, you're right. He's an exalted company that the Park Blake is, and Rushing Glory was not far off that. So yeah, you're right. But I still think if Park Blake was doing 29:24, and we can talk about maybe the track slowed down, or maybe did, maybe didn't. Yeah, look, I can't. I'm not crabbing him in because he's had how many runs? He had 6 or 7, 6 runs.
That was the 7th run the other night.
That was the 7th run. So I'm not
there was a 28:56 and a 28:61 done later on the card. So track was obviously good, Nick. And the weather's been so mild of late that I wouldn't put it down to that.
No. I don't look at it. I say I'm not trying to run down because we for a while we've been talking about this being like you asked me, the last question you asked me last week was who's going to win the Leger, and I said Graham Holland. So I still think it's going to be 1-2. Yeah. Although there's a bit of value elsewhere. And not Sweep the Yard, no, it's not Sweep the Yard in for change.
That's another one for Graham Holland. Moving behind him, Ballymac-Wild. We know what Ballymac-Wild is. He ran a perfectly fine race in defeat. He's doing. What's he doing? He's doing 29:54. He's just a hard running greyhound. Didn't get to the front. Lost that yard or 2 on the bend. Just still there. Big player in the final. We know it can go up fast. Draw not too bad next week. He's on probably the right side of Park Blake, I'd say. I think he is a dog, we have said before, wants the middle or prefers to be in the middle. He is in trap 3, his preferred box. He'll need to be doing everything right to qualify, but he's still there. He's a big player in this year's ledger. And back in third, Balliard Taylor, we did reference it, came home very strongly to pip Glengar Bale, who was a bit disappointing, but as I said, just a bit scratchy around the last 2 bends, so we won't make a judgment. Behind them, Drahan Jet and Tyrap Luke never really got involved.
Ballymac is running superbly, absolutely superbly. As I said, I've harped on about it. He should have been in the final of the Laurels. He was very unlucky that night when he led up, and just the sharp 5.25, and there was an early pacer in there to get inside him and get a bit of trouble. So he's running. You can set your clock by him. You can set your watch by him now. He's running his race every single week. It took something a little extra to beat him the other night. I think that's fair, and that's what it'll do, because he'll probably qualify next Saturday night, and it'll take something a little bit extra to beat him if he's in the final. He's just running. You could say what he's going to do, and I'd say barring bad luck, I think he'll be in the final again.
Yeah. And Balliard Taylor back in third spot. I'd love to see him step up and trip in a while. He's only he's a December 18, should I say. He's only had the 8 starts, so clearly he has had his issues, but he's certainly running very well at present for Michael Daly.
If you stop it at halfway, and a bit like you said about taking your eye off, if you stop it halfway, you say, look, 3 qualifiers are 3 in front. Glengar Bale stays plenty well enough to qualify. Maybe there was something very small, as we said, he was a bit scratchy, maybe around the 3rd or 4th bends, and gave Balliard Taylor the opportunity to get to him. But nonetheless, it was a big one from Balliard Taylor. As you said, he's a very likely race for a dog of his age, and clearly there's been some issue along the way. But it's a shame you see that, because the talent that he has, how good could he have been?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I know it's a long way up from Tralee, but Shelburne Park, 600 yards would be right up his street, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I know I bring everything back to Shelburne Park. There's life outside Shelburne Park. Yeah. I've heard it all before. Do you know what? I'm happy with Shelburne Park. Look at the semi-finals, Tommy. Just look at them. They're brilliant. They're beautiful. They're magnificent. They are 2 wonderful heats, in fairness. The opening semi-final, 1 Boyle Sports Bingo, 2 Park Blake, 3 Ballymac Wild, 4 Fast Fit Paddy, 5 Priceless Jet, and 6 is All for the Best. I don't think I'm stepping out of line, Tommy, and saying I think Park Blake would be favourite.
I think it's an absolutely beautiful draw. I think he couldn't have asked anyone. The only thing that he could ask for maybe to make it a little bit more comfortable for him would be for Ballymac Wild to be maybe 1 more out to the right. Maybe
or Boyle Sports Bingo to be replaced by a slow starter rather than a good trapper. He is a good trapper, Boyle Sports Bingo.
I don't mind that though, because they were in 2 and 3 the other night, and Boyle Sports broke and Park Blake outpaced him into the bend, as you would expect, and Boyle Sports ran a cracking race. So I think the same thing will happen again. I think they'll both break. You would just be concerned if you wanted to find, and you always have to try to get the short one beaten. If you want to find a way to get Park Blake beaten, it's probably if he goes back to a 284 like he did in the previous round. There's potential that maybe Ballymac Wild will lead him, but I think
he probably still has the early speed to be up his inside, doesn't he?
That's what I was going to say. I still think he has that pace, and of course he has the potential to improve. So he has that pace into the bend. I think it's a good draw. Yes, Boyle Sports will break, but this fella's quicker into the bend. I think the top 3 would probably qualify. Price to Jet, of course, has the ability, but he's now got a really tricky draw, I think. A really tricky draw. All for the Best goes up reasonably. He went up well the other night. He did a 281 in All for the Best. That's what I'm saying. There were 3 in line with Jet Sidney himself and Gunboat Showman. So All for the Best can go up. He's not going to get in the way of Price to Jet in the sense that he's not going to be diving in at any stage. But Fast Fit Paddy can go up well. So there'll be Priceless Jet will likely be last to the bend.
Priceless Jet?
Yeah.
No, it's not happening. Because from that winning line into the bend, I think he's a length and a half faster than All for the Best.
I don't think he's going to get the run. I know he's going to get the
maybe. I just think Fast Fit Paddy's going to edge inwards. I would not be surprised if Priceless Jet was right on the shoulder Ballymac Wild, disputing 2nd or 3rd spot into that opening bend. Yeah, no, genuinely. If you look at it again the other evening, Ballymac got racing. Ballymac or Priceless Jet showed superior speed to the likes of Sheriff to go 2nd on the bend, and he's done that a few times. I genuinely, I think he'll be disputing 3rd into the bend.
But Sheriff was one of those dogs I alluded to who had met their level, if you know what I mean.
But he meets his level from halfway home. He's pretty quick to the halfway mark. No, I just think, listen, we'll listen. We'll come back to it next week. We'll come back to it next week, and you can tell me I was right. That's fine.
You
okay.
Are confident.
Oh, very, very. As regards what we think will win the heat, we're both with Park Blake.
Yeah, and
are we both saying Ballymacwild will be second?
He'll qualify.
It's going to be a right battle for third. Boys Sports Bingo gets the line. Fast Fit Paddy, Prices Jet, all for the best. They're all so strong.
Could be a battle for second, Jet.
Yeah, could well be. It could well be. Give me your 1, 2, 3.
2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 3, one like that.
Okay.
2, 3, 1, 2, 1.
Might be a bit tight in the inside. I don't know. I'll go with. Do you know what? I'll go with 2, 3, 5. 2, 3, 5.
I'd say you're
geez, if I sat in the fence, I'd be getting given out. Moving on to the second heat. The second heat, Tommy. 1 Sweep the Yard, 2 Ballymacmerlin, 3 Dearjet Sydney, 4 Russian Glory, 5 Ballymacart, and 6 is Ballyard Taylor. They switched Russian Glory from a middle to an inside. I think they'll be perfectly happy with trap 4 with Dearjet Sydney and trap 3. If I was looking for the likely winner, I'd be looking at the Black Jacket.
Okay. Now, here's where we're going to completely differ, because here I think there's a dog that's overpriced to win it outright. And I've only seen one firm up, and they're going 14-1 Ballymacmerlin. He will clear the top, no problem. Yes, Dearjet Sydney can come in. I think Ballymacmerlin can be as fast as Dearjet Sydney to the opening round. And he has that potential. He has that. I saw enough with him the other day that he wasn't getting any bit of a run at any stage of that race the other night behind Park Blake. He was 2, 3 lengths, 4 lengths better than the run, I think, than what was on the clock for him. I think at 14-1, I think he's a qualifier. I'm not saying he's going to win the heat, because I think Russian Glory is the most likely winner. But I think at 14-1 each way, 3 places, because he could get a decent draw in the final if he qualifies, I think it's well worth taking a chance at 14-1 on Ballymacmerlin. I've bet something small. It's nothing like what I've had on Park Blake. But it's just enough to take away the pain if Ballymacmerlin happens to win it.
Fair enough. Listen, for a dog that's won 3 races, Ballymacmerlin, I have spent an awful lot of time talking about him over the last few months. I have no doubt of his ability. He's exceptionally fast. It's just that first 5 strides are the problem, and probably not as strong as some. But I tend to agree with you. I think if you were to put Ballymacmerlin into a draw, listen, whatever about Dearjet Sydney edging in, we know that's going to happen. He can match him. He's 82 pounds. Dearjet Sydney 72 pounds. If he breaks level, Dearjet Sydney's not going to dive straight in like he would have in his youth. If there's dogs in his insides, he tends to straighten up. If he does clear Sweep the Yard, which is perhaps very likely, I think Ballymacmerlin is a qualifier, because even if he's only third into the back straight, you know what he's going to do to the third bend. He's going to absolutely put the foot down and hammer. Ballymacart and Ballyard Taylor, I think Ballymacart is going to be the one that suffers if Ballymacmerlin qualifies. Ballyard Taylor probably just not going to happen early enough for him, but I think Russian Glory will win this heat. I just think it's a perfect draw.
I think I said earlier in the competition, I thought Ballymacart could be a semi-finalist. She is, and I think that's where I think that's the limit of her ability. That without being, that's really high. It's a really high level. And I just think, like you, she would have needed a much kinder draw, I think, to qualify. I mean, the other night, Minor Droopy, which we expected to break, missed it completely. Well, didn't miss it completely, but in fairness, she probably outpaced Minor Droopy in the first 50 yards. So I think this is a different level altogether now. This quarterfinal set versus this semi-final, they're a different level. Russian Glory is serious. I think, and maybe I'm entirely wrong, but I've said it quite a few times, so I might as well hang myself out on this one. That I think Dearjet Sydney isn't quite at the very top of his level game, and I think that's why that helps me in what I'm thinking about Ballymacmerlin. So look, Russian Glory, that if he shows that pace into the bend and that determination to get around the bend, he'll probably win it. I think he probably will. He's reasonable at 6-1. He's a reasonable price. If you haven't backed him already, he's a reasonable price at 6-1.
Russian Glory.
Yeah.
He won't be anything like that price in the final, and by all accounts, going to take a bomb to keep him out of the final, isn't it?
I think he's the only one in the race that's guaranteed a clear run.
Yeah.
Because he goes up as straight as a gun barrel. And
I'll agree with you there. Just going back to Dearjet Sydney for a moment. He did 29.71 the first round, 29.60 second round, 29.54 in the last round. He probably is coming forward. We didn't see the best of him in the previous month or two, so perhaps he is coming forward. And who's to say if he doesn't go bingo, he couldn't be right there at the finish with Russian Glory. You know, there's only 10 spots between them the other night.
You don't mind, you know me, Ian, I don't mind being wrong. I got it. It's a type of game, you have to be wrong a lot.
Yeah, I don't know, Tommy. I don't know. When I'm wrong for the first time, I'll let you know, and I'll tell you how it feels. It's a cracking ledger, Tommy. I assume. Oh, he's gone. I assume we have the same three qualifiers in the second heat. We're both going for 2, 3, 4 in a different order. We're going 4, 2, 3. Are we both going 4, 2, 3?
I'm going 2, 4, and 1.
Okay, 2, 4, and 1 in that order.
No, 4, 2, 1.
4, 2, 1. 4, 2, 1. So that's it. We have a couple of differences of opinion. That's great. It gives me something to gloat about next week. Tommy, it's been a cracking ledger. It really has been a cracking ledger, and it's not finished. We've got 2 wonderful semi-finalists to look forward to.
Yeah, we do. Dead right, we do. They are really good heats, and say like. Our whole opinion on them would change very quickly. If Park Lake missed the kick, that would open up that heat. If Russian Door, if Ballymacmurden missed the kick, it would open up that heat because they're just would be more likely to get a clear run and whatever. So yeah, like there's very small fractions in it. You're still expecting if you're betting on greyhounds, you're still expecting that everything has to go exactly right. So they're 2 really hot heats. If we're right, there'll be no wide seed in the final, and that will make the draw.
Correction. 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 When I'm right, there will be one finalist with a wide seed on it.
I'm going to enjoy this next week. I'm really going to enjoy
this. Tommy, did you keep an eye on the proceedings from Shelbourne Park on Saturday night? The National Puppy Stake got underway. But we're also a couple of weeks out from the Winter Racing Festival. It's a great time for, men are starting to posture with their dogs. They're putting dogs over 5.75 and, there's a couple of open sprints on. Let's get our dog in there. They're looking for that place in the big races on the night, the Saturday the 4th. It was cracking racing at Shelbourne Park, but we'll start with the National Puppy Stake. Some fine performances, some really, really bright prospects. 2 in a row, obviously the standout, 28-12. He's a bit special.
That was a ridiculous performance, in fairness to him. And I think the only time, or when he was beaten it was his previous run. Just things just didn't happen for him properly in the early stages of the race. He's obviously a serious dog. He's obviously the Murdaniel beauty is the Cork connection there. He's his dam, and he started off trialing in Cork. I see he won an unraced in Watford. He's a seriously fast dog. But I think the whole night is that normally a much bigger stake in terms of first round heat.
It was 24 last year. It was 24 last year. It has been much bigger in the past. It was advertised for 36, but I think there's a lot more competition in terms of for puppies these days, and there's a lot of puppies that are already out and they're racing elsewhere. You know what I mean?
There used to be that the quarterfinals on the night of stars, wasn't it?
They ran it one or 2 years. They ran the quarterfinals. Another year they ran the semifinals. I think last year they ran the final. And this year, I think because of the timings, I'll have to check with the racing office, but it looks like it's going to be finished the week before the Winter Racing Festival, which is interesting because it was due to be on the same night. Just looking through the 4 heats, Tommy, Slippy Hazel, Droopy's Jet. Behind her, Crafty Kokoro, Mature Reflection, 2 Droopy Sydneys. The second heat, Gaston Picas, Away and Gone, son of Droopy Sydney. Second Enthusiast, Droopy Sydney. Onto heat 3, Scooby Prince, should I say, who looks a real prospect for Jennifer O'Donnell and Steve Noble, Droopy Sydney. Back in third, Kilgraney Sydney. A Droopy Sydney. And on to the final heat, 2 in a row, a Droopy Sydney. Second Juggernaut, a Droopy Sydney. We could start running Droopy Sydney stakes on their own, and they'd be as hot as any other stake you'd get.
When I mentioned Droopy Sydney there recently, I nearly got shot.
I know, yeah. I think we just have to mention it because what he's achieving of late is just ridiculous.
I wouldn't have mentioned it if it wasn't ridiculously standout at the time as well. Yeah, it is phenomenal what he has on the ground at the moment. They're unbelievable. Maybe the story of the night in Shelbourne Park tonight was that 5.75. That was a ridiculously good race to finish off tonight, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a wonderful contest. Like that, dogs that are just readying themselves for a challenge at the Winter Racing Festival. Let's get a good run on their card. And by God, Beach Avenue produced one. He was already guaranteed a place in whatever race he wanted to be in. You'd imagine it'd be 5.75. It'd be 600, I assume. And Ballymac Belvolt, it was the first time he really showed up at Shelbourne Park. And to run into Beach Avenue on the night was desperately lucky. He's doing 30.82, which would have been the track record at one point. Now, as it is, I think they're about a length off the clock at present with 30.75. But 2 unbelievable greyhounds. And then when you realise that Derby's Delight was only a length behind them, that's even more remarkable. It was just one of those special contests. Bring it on. We want more like that.
Yeah, I know you have you kind of favourite the longer the trip, the more you like the race. So I mean that was a phenomenal race to be fair to. Darby's Light ran some hell of a race to finish as close as he did. Ballymount Bellwood, I didn't think it would get picked up, even though I knew it was Beach Avenue in behind. But it was still a nice step forward for him. He's a seriously fast dog. I think we might get to see that maybe, as you say, that for the Winter Racing Festival, he'll be in one of those races anyway. He's seriously fast, and I'd expect him to still be improving. So I mean, the quality from all distances will be red hot that weekend.
Yeah. Lots to look forward to, Tommy. Next weekend, we've got the semi-finals of the Matchbook Betting Exchange Irish St. Ledger. We'll have more brilliant racing action at Shelbourne Park as they get ready for the Winter Racing Festival. And, of course, the semi-finals of the National Puppy Stakes, sponsored by the IGOBF, it must be said. Probably the right competition for them to sponsor. That's what they're about. The young dogs, the breeding, the pedigrees, and some really, really fast greyhounds in that. We've mentioned the 2 or 3 the heat winners there, 2 in a row. Scooby Prince, Gaston Picas opened his account 28.47, and Slippy Hazel, very strong running display in 28.41. Second run there was the Crafty Kokoro, remarkable performance. She was out with the washing off the second bend, and she's beaten 3 lengths in 28.41. She's very, very, very fast. A lot of very fast puppies around, Tommy. And again, the likes of Crafty Kokoro, Slippy Hazel, we've got a fair few bitches coming on as well.
Yeah, to continue the good work of the last year or year and a half with the bitches, they've been a phenomenal bunch. I think in general, to be fair, this year there's a good blend between dogs and bitches. Whereas last year you could see that the bitches were beginning to get a bit dominant, and they brought that through the season. So they're a seriously talented bunch. I think for the year ahead, it's a good sign. And looking ahead to next weekend, I won't be here next Monday if prices check the price.
Oh, well, we'll talk to Barry instead. Right, that's it. Just one last mention. Egrosiach Lakela, Tommy, by all accounts, stories I heard over the weekend, was a great success. It was lovely to remember the people we lost, but it was also great to get people at the track. And there was just a nice buzz around the place. More of that up in the next month or two now. We try and fill these tracks up to Christmas and give people a sense of what greyhound racing is about. Let's try and fill our tracks again next year.
Yeah, it's up to the people themselves now. If they come back to get a little bit of a taste of it. I know we're still in dodgy times, and there's talk about people being asked to stay at home and work from home and all this sort of rubbish. Unfortunately, we've gone from a period where we thought it was all beginning to get clear to where it's getting very cloudy again in terms of what you can and can't do. But look, you can still be in a Greyhound Stadium, out in the fresh air, away from other people, and enjoying superb racing. So just let's do it. Amen.
Tommy, go and empty your dishwasher. Thanks again. Good luck and God bless, folks. We've had a wonderful, wonderful matchbook betting exchange Irish St. Ledger to this point. We've got 3 races left, 2 semi-finals and a wonderful final to look forward to. We'll be talking more about the Ledger next Monday. But for now, best of luck.